The Mariners come back from the All-Star game and we start at home for the second half. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the series analysis episode of the Seattle Baseline Podcast. My name is Julian Smith, and I'm with Alex Hong. Alex, that's two in a row. We're back together. And last time we talked about the All-Star game and the previous episode. So this episode is actually going to be just the next series and a little bit more about maybe some trade talks. We'll get to that later. But Alex, how have you been?
Pretty good. I'm outside right now. I'm at the University of Washington, so that's why I'm outside. But I was just there earlier today, so gotta record though before the next series starts. And another thing I think we should mention is, that All-Star game was pretty lackluster. There wasn't much happening. A lot of the action happened in the first inning, but our boy Randy did get a hit, so that was pretty nice, I'd say. Yeah.
Off of Duran too. That was pretty awesome. That's a promising thing to see from Randy because he's been the anchor of our offense all year so far, and we want him to keep producing. So I'm pretty stoked. I think Randy's going to keep doing what he's been doing until the All-Star break throughout the rest of the season. So let's get to the Giants because this next series, the Giants are one of the worst teams in baseball this year. You wouldn't think that if you saw the stats because even though they have a 41 to 55 wins to losses ratio, their offense has been one of the best offenses in the league. They've had the fifth best batting average in the league and the best doubles in the entire league, across the entire league. The the pitching was much worse to start the year, but they've come back. Rafi Devers, their offensive guy, has come back. Excuse me. To be honest, this isn't a team that I would expect to be 41 and 55. I think they actually play to a much, much better team than even like a 500 team. So, Alex, what's your breakdown of this series? Like, what do you think we need to watch out for?
I think we just need to take advantage of the Giants and their mistakes. So you mentioned how their offense is pretty good, right? But their
Mhm.
defense is terrible. It's one of the worst defenses in the league. They have the second most, either the second or the third most errors in the league, and they have one of the lowest fielding percentages, I think, tied for second. So you can just tell their defense is absolutely terrible, right? And the Mariners, defense, they're probably maybe they're a little below average around the middle of the pack. So we have the edge in the defensive category. We definitely also have the edge in the pitching category, I'd say. Specifically, a lot of people question the Mariners bullpen, but their bullpen, hasn't been too great either. And their pitching overall is down well below average, arguably just bad at that point, right? Their team ERA is 4.46, which is really, really high. So, and the Mariners is 3.61 for reference. So we have the edge in the pitching, we have the edge in the defense. And whether we have the edge or not in the offense is very questionable because the Mariners offense has been rather questionable this year. But I think we have the advantage in the other two categories, which is going to be a pretty good sign, I'd say, for the Mariners. We're definitely the better team.
One thing that I'd say I'm a little worried about is on the pitching side, it's all lefties that are good for them, other than Logan Webb. Logan Webb is a righty, but look at someone like Robbie Ray. We know Robbie Ray. He used to play for the Mariners in our playoff run. Um, go for Eric Miller out of the bullpen. Sam Henches, is that how you read his name? I think that is Sam Henches and Eric Miller, both left-handed pitchers, both elite pitchers. It's kind of like having Ferrer and Spire in the bullpen. That's kind of what it shapes up to be, but without the brash Munoz and those guys that the Mariners have. They just have the two lefties that are elite in their bullpen, and so the Mariners, being a team that has struggled against lefties this year, might have a harder time adjusting to these guys out of the bullpen because most elite bullpen arms are righties, and these guys, they're not just, oh, force the hand. These guys are elite left-handed pitchers. So the Mariners definitely need to watch out for that. They and Logan Webb also a Team United States guy. Usually he is an all-star. This is a pitching rotation, especially in the top half, that I think is much more overwhelming than what they've been for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they don't give up that many runs, but they give up a lot of hits and walks. Everyone's whip is very high. They don't have a single person with a whip under one, including not even from the bullpen or their starters. So I think that's a pretty good tell that they're letting a lot of people on base, and the Mariners can definitely take advantage of that with how many errors they're making. So just get on guys on base and let them make mistakes to where we score. I think that's going to be a pretty good opportunity. This is what I like to see. In those type of situations because they do let a lot of guys go on base, and the more guys you let on base, the more room you have for errors to where errors are going to be costly. So I think that's an approach the Mariners should definitely take rather than just trying to swing it over the fence. And I know that's not a good thing. The Mariners are very good at that. They're not very good at getting on base, but getting on base in a series like this is definitely really important, especially for the team we're going against.
Yeah, and most of their defense is not good. Like Rafael Devers, one of the main reasons he got traded from the Red Sox was because he didn't want to move from third base to first base or to DH. Rafael Devers is a really bad defender, and but look at someone like Luis Arraez, who was supposed to be a bad defender, now playing as one of the premier second base defenders in the league. This is a massive, massive jump for Luis Arraez, and his his offensive numbers in terms of slug have spiked, but we've seen kind of the same guy that we've seen from him offensively. It's just the defense has taken a huge leap, and I don't even know what happened. He must have it must have been a lot of countless hours of hard work because you don't just get that much better at defense overnight.
Yeah, gotta be a lot of practice, probably. I'm not really sure. Usually defense gets worse when you get older, not gets better. I mean, that's pretty rare. So that's gotta give him credit there. That's pretty impressive to see. But yeah, this is a team that, you might say they might been playing a little better, but ultimately they haven't been winning games, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's kind of the way you got to look at it. And it's not because of a super detrimental injury. I mean, Matt Chapman, he's not sure if he's going to play in this series because he's still on the IL, I believe. But that's something to consider as well. Chapman actually hasn't played since I don't think he's played at all in July. But even then, right, Matt Chapman, he hasn't been that good this year. He's not the usual self. So even guys like that they've lost don't really make too much of a difference. Yeah, I think.
And we'll get back to Arraez later. He's actually one of the most interesting guys that we can talk about from the Giants this year. But how about our pitching staff? Our pitching staff is actually the three that we're putting out there: Bryce Miller, Ryan Wu at T-Mobile Park, an asterisk at T-Mobile Park, and then Logan Gilbert. These are the three best pitchers that the Mariners have in our rotation, hands down. Like this is the premium rotation that the Mariners could put out against the San Francisco Giants. So you said it earlier. I think the Mariners do have a pitching advantage because Bryce Miller's been elite this year, one of the best pitchers in the league with a 2 point something ERA. Like other than the one start that he had previously, like the one right before the All-Star break, he had a bad start. Other than that, he's been rock solid, one of the best pitchers in the league so far. And then Logan Gilbert, almost an all-star, really close to an all-star. And then Brian Wu, T-Mobile Park. Literally, this guy is lights out at T-Mobile Park. So I'm I'm pretty confident in saying that this team going into this Giants series has a massive, massive pitching advantage. And it all comes down to how much can the offense score? How much can the offense take advantage of the defense that you were just talking about?
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Another thing we gotta consider with our lineup, right? is that, they made the change it's been some time since they made the change, but they put Kenzone third in the lineup, right? That's, I think, a very good decision, right? I think Kenzone should play every single day, in my personal opinion, but the Mariners, they like to make things a little more difficult for us. So they like to put guys I've never heard of. Like, we didn't even mention the last episode, but in the last game, we put up guys I've never even heard of, like Weston Wilson. If you remember, I genuinely don't know what that was about, but hopefully we just stick with Canzone. Rayleigh, I think he determined he can't really hit against lefties. But yeah, and it's got us some stuff to look out for, and maybe some second half resurgences, right? Cole Emerson, started off really well, maybe slumping a little bit. That's actually pretty typical for rookies, right? And we can see if he gets a little better throughout the season. That's actually very common rookie trend trajectory wise. And if some guys like Cole Young can keep it up, Randy can keep it up, maybe Cal will get back on track, right? Those are some things I think we should also look out for. And we're not even putting out. I know Hancock pitched in the last game of the series, so he's probably not pitching right away. But Hancock's not even in that top three, and he's been one of our best pitchers this year as well. So that really shows how deep our rotation is at its core.
Yeah. And I think now it's time to start talking about trades from the Giants, because the Giants are actually being 41 and 55. They are positioned to be sellers. They will not be buyers. Not in that division, because you've got the Padres, the Dodgers. Basically, if you win that division, you are the frontline competitor for the World Series. It's just incredibly hard to win that division. And the Giants are one of those teams that's probably not going to make it, even if they make a resurgence in the next couple of weeks. And so they have some really awesome trade pieces. One of which, because I saw Alexa and Army Chow Mein in the previous episode both comment that they want the Mariners to be buying. And I want the Mariners to be buying too. We don't want to talk about the Mariners selling
No
pieces.
fan wants a selling team.
Yeah. No, we don't want to sell a team that has Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh, and Randy Arozarena. That's not fun. And one of the best pieces that they have is Luis Arraez. And we got Brendan Donovan last offseason, and he's our leadoff guy. But if you have Luis Arraez, now you have two leadoff guys that can play. One might play in the 9 hole, one could definitely play in the 1 hole. I think when the Mariners look at the team and they say, "Hey, we're putting too much effort on the home runs. We don't have enough on base ability. And even if our home run guys get singles, there's nobody to drive in." Well, here's Luis Arraez, who's getting on base like a madman right now. He's a similar type to Ichiro playing second base.
Yeah, and one thing I will mention before we talk further about Arias is that his situation right now, right? He's in a very much he's going to get traded type of situation, right? The Giants are in a tough division. They're not playing well. Arraez is on a 1 year deal. Like, this is really setting up the standpoint. This is pretty much as obvious, I think, as Suarez. And Suarez was probably a little less obvious, I think, because the Diamondbacks weren't as bad as the Giants were. The Giants they're basically out of it with their record. So, it's a very likely can to be traded. One thing I'll mention though is that he really wants to play second base, and he's gotten a lot better on defense at second base. So I think we need to keep him at second base. We don't want to risk moving him somewhere and then now he becomes atrocious on defense again, right? So we probably have to do some manipulation within the line to fit him in. But I do agree with his offensive and defensive benefits as well, that it would be good. And it never hurts. You might say, oh, we already have Cole Young who's so good at defense. Well, you can never have too many good players, I think. And there are some limits to that, I think. But that would be, we just kind of need all the help we can get right now. Because this current situation before the All-Star break, it wasn't really working very well. So we just need any boost we could get.
Yeah, and when I mentioned that the Giants have one of the best batting average, the fifth best batting average in the league, and one of the best doubles in the league. The first one that comes to mind is Arraez. This guy's slug has improved drastically. He's had two great years, and he's always had a great batting average. But some years his offense, his slugging just gets that much better to the 400 to 500 tier. Maybe not the 500 tier. That's a little bit. That's a lot more. But the 400 tier definitely he gets to that point. And Arraez is in his top level years this year from an offensive standpoint and surprisingly a defensive standpoint. And so the Mariners definitely this is a guy that the Mariners should be looking at in terms of, hey, if we want to buy, who do we look at? We can look at Arraez and then maybe a bullpen arm. That probably rounds out the trade deadline. You don't need much more. You don't need a outfielder because Canzone can play from both sides. You you can maybe in a very luxurious sense, you could get a guy that puts Robles on the bench even against lefties when he subs in for Luke Raley. That might be one thing that we look into, maybe like a Taylor Ward type. But in terms of the types of players that we want, it's not a filler for a typical like it's not a filler for a position. It's a elite guy that can give your offense something when they have nothing. And Luis Arraez absolutely does that for you. So I'm thinking the Mariners definitely should go and get this guy if the value lines up and we're not trading away the entire farm system for a rental. Honestly, this is a trigger I might pull in a buying sense for the Mariners.
Yeah, it probably won't cost too much. It'll probably be similar to the Suarez trade in my eyes because it's a very similar situation. And another thing about Arraez that we didn't mention that he's kind of like the opposite of the Mariners we have right now. He doesn't strike out at all. I don't know how he does it, but he has kept such a low strikeout rate. It's like actually insane. He basically never strikes out. He always walks more than he strikes out, which is insane. So he's kind of he really would be a difference maker that to the Mariners because the Mariners have issues striking out. A lot of our players do, and Arraez is kind of the guy who doesn't. So that's another thing I really like about it.
Yeah, and every time we add a new player, I feel like it's a moment where they have the elite skill set that the other Mariners can learn from. And Arraez definitely has that. You just mentioned he doesn't strike out. He gets the bat on the ball. That's something that someone like Julio Rodriguez can watch someone like Luis Arraez play in front of him and go, oh, this is what he's doing. And obviously, they're not going to mimic each other, but like in the sense that that you have a guy that has a particular skill set. I think having those types of players will benefit the Mariners a lot more than just adding one player with value.
Yeah, and another thing I'll mention with him that I like is that his splits are basically equivalent. Whether you look at his lefties versus righty splits, his home away splits, they're basically the exact same. So he's super consistent regardless of the situation. I mean, he had a little bit of a slower start, I think, but then he really picked it up, especially at the end leading up to the All-Star break. So he's a guy who's been very consistent throughout the entire season, no matter who he's against. He's a really good player in that sense. It's like and I don't think he would cost too much either. Now, there's probably a lot of teams that
Mm-hmm.
want him that are contending, but like I said, it's a 2 month rental. Only a team that's buying would actually make this trade, or else it's completely useless. And the Mariners need to prove in the end that they are a worthwhile buying team, or else the trade has no purpose and is useless.
Yeah, and when we watch this series against the San Francisco Giants, definitely look out for Arraez because this is the type of player that can take a playoff team and make them a World Series contender easily. This is the guy that can do that in my eyes. So I definitely we're going to be on the lookout. I hope you guys can check out the Giants series and check out what Luis Arraez is doing, because this is a lot of fun. This playing style is a lot of fun to watch. So let us know in the comments what you guys think. Is Arraez the best trade target? I saw something about the Pirates maybe being a team that the Mariners trade with. Let us know. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our beautiful faces on YouTube. Check out our Instagram. And as always, go Mariners.
Go Mariners.